Welcome back to the show. Today I'm joined by Andrew Armstrong from PTR Mortgages and thought it would be applicable to get someone on the show to give us guidance over the next couple of weeks and couple of months for young families, current property owners, and anyone looking to investment in the future about what in the New Zealand market is happening around LVRs, how to get your first mortgage, what to do about multiple mortgages if you want to invest in the future state. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Lawrence.
So a big thing is the reason why I wanted to get Andrew on the show originally was, I met Andrew at a personal development event about a year ago. He introduced himself and he said, hey, I'm a property broker. Myself owning multiple properties at that stage, I've always thought, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know the best way to run properties. And something resonated with me with Andrew, and I said, okay, I'll give him the time of day. It didn't cost me anything. I called him up and said, hey, Andrew, can we sit down and talk about my property portfolio, what I have, and what the options I'll have, going over the next couple of years? And he said, by all means, come on over. And straight away, once I sat down and I noticed the questions that came out of his mouth, that was the questions I never thought of. I realized I was going to be found wanting in the direction I wanted to go into. And straight away, over weeks of him collating, putting it together, we got a situation that most property owners would love to hear, going, by the way, you're paying too much money. By the way, we can reduce your mortgage payments. By the way, we can save you 5 years over the life of your mortgage and give you some money back. And I'm sure, Andrew, in your experience, and when you got people come in, that's something that's sort of the breakthrough moment for all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's obviously we go about our lives. We go and get a house. We go, this is great. We've got a house. We're going to keep doing what we've always done, and then eventually you go and go, hey, somebody said it was a good idea to go and get a property investment next time or what have you. But not a lot of people talk about what the best way to structure that is, and the fact that you can either go to different banks and get different deals or set it up so that you can be really tax efficient and pay tax, of course, but pay it in the right way to help you get ahead and save money and whatnot.
Because I think the biggest struggle would be, firstly, straight off the back, a lot of people don't realize a property broker doesn't cost me money. So Andrew's my property broker. He has been for about 3 or 4 months, and a really good relationship we've had to date. And everything that he has done on my account doesn't cost me anything. I think that's a lot of things straight off the bat that people go, he's there. He has to make some money somehow. So I'm not going to go talk to him because he might give me the right insight, but he wants to clip my money. He wants to add 0.5% here or take $2,000 there. And I think that's something that we need to break through to the marketplace going, here's a person that's here to truly help you. He doesn't get paid by you. He gets paid by the banks.
Yeah, absolutely. And having worked for the bank and really enjoyed it, and it's a great culture in it. But seeing how, being able to save people some money and help them through that process as a mortgage advisor, you sort of become very passionate about it. You absolutely want to get out there and help people get ahead. We work on behalf of you with the banks. We work with the banks, and we sort of bridge that gap between the known and the unknown to be able to talk bank to the banks and help customers at the end of the day. In terms of being paid by the lenders, they're all muchness in a roundabout way. We definitely take a very balanced approach in the sense that what's right by you, we're going to end up with a great result. Different banks provide different outcomes. So it's just a matter of getting the right bank that's going to suit you and your goals and what you want out of it at the end of the day.
No, I love that. Now, we're going to talk through over the next sort of 10, 20 minutes and talk through a couple of examples that New Zealanders specifically might be going through in their current dilemma, in the current situation of coming down, being a period out of the time that we're close to being normality in our lives. Obviously, the property market is likely going to come down. People have uncertainty of whether, what's happened next. But the people that are thinking about property or have been thinking about property might go for the first home buyers. Let's think about the first home buyers. They might be going, now is my opportunity. The biggest challenge we've had for the last handful of years with the first home buyers, and it's almost a sacrilege to say this, and it's a problem for them, not for the first time buyers, but the way it's been set up is they originally need a 20% deposit. Let's use Auckland as an example. Average house price, 900, close to $1 million. That means you need to have $150 to $180, $190,000 cash in your bank. Now, I don't know very few people that will have that amount of cash, let alone a 20 or 21-year-old that wants to buy his first house. But there's definitely some mistakes in understanding that you have to have 20%. Is that not the case?
Oh, absolutely. And recent Reserve Bank removals aside, there has been the ability to get in there with as little as a 5% deposit for many, many years. It's largely comes down to education, being willing to ask the question to a mortgage advisor or broker or even your banker and go, hey, look, I've got 5% deposit. Can I get in there? I think some media have been sort of blasting about that you have to have a 20% deposit to get your first home. And subliminally, when you're listening to media and everyone's saying you need 20%, then of course you believe that's the case. But it's simply not true. The best course of action is to be able to save, be able to show that you can save, and then get in there and put your foot, dip your foot, dip your toe. But simply ask questions and sort of test that scenario. So what we do is we work a lot with first-time buyers and go, hey guys, you've got your 5% deposit, or maybe you've got 10, or maybe you've got 15. Mm-hmm. What is it that you're after? What's going to really tick all boxes for you? And how do we get you into your first home? And then how do we make it so that you get that equity back in that house to reduce some banks charge low equity margins or mm-hmm. they'll charge you a fee. How do you get it down? How do you get a bit of equity? And then how do you just keep chipping away at that so that you can really get ahead?
I think, it's a great insight into that, Andrew. I think there's something which you just mentioned there that a lot of people forget about these days is getting over that fear of asking. You go to the bank and ask, all they're going to say is no. You go to a consultant and ask, you go to anyone and ask, all they're going to say is no. They're not going to say no and then penalize you because you asked the question. So that's the sort of stuff that we need to be able to help and educate people thinking it in the first home buyer market going, you need to have someone. And if you're not willing to ask the question, that's where Andrew comes in. That's where the property broker comes in, or a banker on your, working with the banker on your behalf, because he's going to ask. Andrew ain't scared to ask for shit, right? He's going to go and say, hey, I've got a guy with a 5% deposit and he wants a $5 million house. He will still ask that question. Whether the bank's going to give it or not, he doesn't care because he works for the customer and he works for us. And if we say, I want you to ask it, he'll go ask it. And he might even find out the best way that we can ask it, But it's great to see that people can come in and, get it. There is ways around that 20%. A few years ago when it became hard in the news and hard guidelines, I sat myself and went, geez, man, I wouldn't want to be a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, 23-year-old thinking of buying a house and needing $150,000 cash. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a big mountain to climb. And, I think that probably is where we get a lot of people who get detached from the home buying process. So you talk about, we hear about these things where, when I was 21, I bought my first home and interest rates were X, Y, and Z. At that stage, people were bold. They're willing to go and give it a nudge. But when you start focusing on the dollar figure rather than the percentage, and realise that, you can get there with 5%. And it doesn't matter how old you are as a first-time buyer. We've helped people in their sort of mid-30s into their first home with a 5% deposit. And, it's just knowing which screws to turn and which bank to go and have a chat to that really help people get in there, get ahead, and having that goal, having your sort of timeline mapped out certainly makes a difference. I'll just give you a quick example. We've had people who have had the ability to get in there with sort of a 13% deposit. And we've gone, well, you've got 13%, you can get in there with 5. If you took that extra money and put it back into the house, because it was a bit of a wreck, what's that going to mean for you as a homeowner? And what's it going to mean for your future value of that property? So we sort of get it towards their goals. The goals were to get a nice house for as little as possible. So they went in there with their 5% deposit, they put the rest of the money back into the house, they revalued it within 6 months, and lo and behold, they had 20% deposit, or equity, sorry, they'd got their equity back out. and new bathrooms, kitchens, paints, curtains, everything.
No, that's great. And otherwise, they would have had no idea. You know, they would have put it all in there, and 12 months or 6 or 12 months later, still been, you know, no cash to spend that, and then had that strain of living in a house that you don't want to be in. Because a lot of us, first time, you know, your first time home is never going to be a last home. Very few people I know that's going to do that. So, and they get in, and after about a year or 2 years, you don't like it. So, you know, once someone's in that space, you get to the next dilemma, the next journey of a person of going, I own my existing home, or, you know, I've got a mortgage on my existing home. I, A, have outgrown it, or B, I just, you know, want to shift to a different suburb for my kids for school and so forth. And then you get that mind question of, do I sell and take my equity and dump it all into my new home? Or do I consider is it possible to hold on to my existing first home, rent it, and then see if I can buy my second home and actually then become an investor per se? Now, I can imagine you see these questions, and I'm guessing there's some tips and thoughts you could give to people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you nailed it there. It's your first home shouldn't necessarily be a forever home unless you're a multi-millionaire and you won a lotto or something like that. But your first home is generally not your forever home, and your next home is not generally your forever home either. But these are stepping stones along the property journey and your property ladder. So, as I say, the question is, I'm looking to upsize, I'm looking to move somewhere, I'm looking to get into a school zone. How do I get into my next zone? Generally, if you've been in your home for a couple of years, you should have built up a bit of equity. Two ways: you've paid down your principal on your mortgage, and property values, sort of incremental gains over time, in most circumstances would have gone up. So we're able to go back to your lender or your bank and go, hey guys, we want to redraw or do a mortgage top up on our existing mortgage, and then we want to take that and as a deposit into our next property. The questions really are, what's going to happen to my home that I've been living in for 2 years or whatnot? Is it going to make a good rental, or is it better that I sell it? Have I overcapitalized? What's that sort of scenario? And it's actually a really hard question to answer. And we do work with a lot of people to sort of work the numbers and see how it works. In certain circumstances, we'll work with our property accounting gurus. We work alongside a bunch of these not boring accountants, and they certainly help people understand the numbers and the why. Why should I turn my home into an investment property? And the reality is that, again, coming back to incremental gains over time, properties go up. They tend to increase in value. Your principal decreases. So if you can get somebody in those houses paying you the rent to help you pay down that debt, and you're able to get into your next home, then it's certainly much better than selling a property, releasing yourself, and forfeiting those gains over time. In certain circumstances, then hey, look, if it's an opportunity you can't put down and you have to sell, then hey, do it. But in most circumstances, you can keep both and buy the next house and become a property investor. And we certainly help people along that journey.
You know, I do love it that you mentioned the point that there is certain situations where holding onto it might not be beneficial. If you've overcapitalized and you can get good cash value to sell, then you do that decision because you made the mistake of overcapitalizing and you can get some of that recovery. So at that stage, you not necessarily want to hold it because the money you're going to get back is not going to give you the worth in the long run because you spend too much on the money, on the property. And when we're talking about overcapitalizing, to anyone that's new to the property game or not sure about it, it's talking about if a house is valued at $1 million and you bought it for say $800,000 and you did $300,000 worth of renovations to it, but it didn't improve the value of the house. Just using this example, therefore your debt to the house is $1.1 million. The value of your house is still $1 million. You have overspent to what the actual worth of the house is. So this is where you have an upside down mortgage. And this is something that was very common in 2008 in the recession in America. Everyone had upside down mortgages. And because people were allowed to borrow over 100% of the value of the house. Now, I saw Andrew smiling there because he understands upside down mortgages. I'm guessing it's not something he hears from a lot of people talk about upside down mortgages.
Yeah, upside down mortgages, reverse equity. There was a movement, and there's still, I think maybe overseas, there's still a sort of a guidance or a misfound, education on, hey, look, it's good to have these properties that cost you more than they, than they need to, because it reduces your tax bill. You've still got to fork out real money to pay for those debts.
Mm-hmm.
And if the property market's collapsed, like in some of these mining towns and out west of nowhere, and one trick town,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen people who've bought houses for $800,000, and a year later they're worth $300,000, but they've got a $600,000 mortgage, and all of a sudden the numbers don't work.
Yeah.
So that's where it's better to sort of focus on what rent are you going to get
Mm-hmm.
for the value of the house. And as you say, maybe it's time to sell to somebody who wants it as their next time, take money and then go and invest it into 2 other investment properties that make sense.
No, totally. So as we're going along the journey of, we've gone through the first time buyers, their insights, we got into the, they're moving from one house to the next, whether they're able to keep on to that second house and be an investor or not. We get further down the path in sort of the third step of a ladder of a property journey the person will go on to. I own existing properties. I own more than one, so it'd be 2 or more. And you sit there and go, I don't have a property broker on my side, or I don't have anyone looking over my properties from a financial or an accounting point of view. What is the main sort of considerations for someone to look into? Because you might think, oh, great, I own three $1 million properties. I've only got $500,000 debt on each. So therefore, my debt's only 50% of my equity, which is 50% LVR. And you go, great, I'm in a great position. I'm not going to do anything. I don't need anyone to look at it. And I'm guessing it's that sort of, I don't want to say naivety, because I was naive in that situation myself. So it's calling myself a bit of a, a bit of a mupp in that situation. But I think it's that place where a lot of people find themselves in, where they don't come to you, speak to the broker, and then yourself would be able to guide them on what's the best way to take that capability and implement it to the better.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's and again, this is why it's really important to have a review with your mortgage advisor, your trusted, mortgage broker. Banks, although bankers are generally, pretty good, they know what they're up to. They're not always able to sort of think of, of your overall picture. It's not really their space. Their space is to be told what to do on, what you want. They'll operate that for you. And so coming down to review, quite often we look at people's overall picture. They might have, let's say, 3 houses with $3 million, and you might have sort of a mix across owner-occupied investment properties, even amount of debt. Again, working with a tax accounting, property tax accounting team, that we can look at the overall position and go, well, maybe with a slight rejig of the sum total of all your mortgages, maybe we move more of it against the actual cost of your investment properties, and structure it in such a way that you're going to get ahead financially from a tax perspective. And you're paying the right amount of tax, but you're able to do it so that you can keep your deductibility up and pay down your own personal debt far faster and really start to get ahead there. It's pay down your personal debt, keep your investment debt high.
Yep.
Work out what your budget is and your structure, and just start to think about the numbers. People talk about property investing and being an investor, but they don't really talk about the fact that it's actually a business. And like any business, you need to put some time and energy and effort into it to look at how those metrics are going to work to make it profitable over the long run.
Totally. And one of the other biggest things that's come up at the moment, even though we've mentioned a few times, is in the New Zealand space, is the removal of the LVR by the Reserve Bank as a set hard guideline, sort of per se. What does that mean for investors? What does that mean sort of from first time property owners thinking of becoming, an investor? That sort of guidelines on the LVR from around an investor's point of view.
Yeah, so it's actually it's a valid question, because everyone's going, well, Reserve Bank rules are gone, we must be able to borrow as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
With it gone, it's up to the banks to enforce or make the policy. And a lot of banks haven't really changed it so far. And for good reason. Obviously, there's a bit of uncertainty in the market. There's uncertainty of what's happening with people's incomes and livelihood in the property market. But again, that's where we come in as mortgage advisors, mortgage brokers. And we talk to people or lenders who are willing to go up to 80% on standalone investment properties, at below 4% rates, and go, hey guys, you can still get ahead. You can still go and buy properties, and those properties don't have to be with your existing bank. We can move them and separate them, and allow you to get into an existing house with a 20% deposit.
No, it's great. So it's anyone that's listening there. It's the opportunities are more there when you know about it. You understand more what you do in your daily life when people have educated you, have told you, or you've gone and read about it. And this is where we've got to see this in the New Zealand space at the moment. Properties are one of the hardest things to actually get your hands onto. And like I said at the beginning, the disappointing part about it is once you've got a property, it's the most easiest thing to get a second or a third one. And that's why there's such a distaste between the people that don't have property and the people that do have property, because the people that do have it naturally will have on average 1.5 to, the average of a homeowner will be more than one house. But yet we're having people that are struggling to get into their first home. But it's because we got to give them these insights we're talking about now. We've got to show them that what has been said in the media and what is said from a controlling point of view is not necessarily all the way of what you've got to do to get into the house market. And one of the biggest things I talk to people as well, and I would like to know your opinion on this, Andrew, is, as I know, and I say to people, your first home is not your forever home. Why not, if you can afford, buy a house, rent it out straight off the bat, and at least it means you're on the property market. So if you can only afford 400,000 or 500,000 and you're living in Auckland, you shit out of luck. You ain't going to find anything in Auckland for that price. It doesn't mean you can't go in a nice suburb outside of Hamilton. It doesn't mean you can't go to Whangarei and buy for 400,000 and get it rented. And it means you're on the property ladder. It means maybe 2 years later, when you want to do that second home, that's when you leverage it, and then you can buy your family home.
Oh, absolutely. And you can get into an investment property, a new build investment property, maybe a 2-bedroom unit, something in Christchurch, for example, for 400, 425, and you get in there with a 10% deposit. So that's 42,500, say. And you can stay living in Auckland, and you can stay living with family and whatnot, and still get on a property ladder. And those properties, the new build, the warm, they're built to modern standards. I say Christchurch because it's probably it's got the biggest question mark over everyone's head. People are still thinking that Christchurch had this earthquake 10 years ago, but the reality is there's a lot of development now. There's some great developers doing some wonderful stuff to regenerate the city, and you can get in there with a minimum deposit, buy an investment property, help some other family get into this place, become an investor, and then maybe you want to move down to Christchurch, or you can get in there. 10% deposit, new build property, and that applies to Auckland as well. So Wellington, Hamilton, Palmerston North, if you can find, I think there's quite a bit of new stuff going in there as well.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's where I say people just got to think about it, got to be willing to question it, and willing to see what the opportunities are. But before we end off the show today, Andrew, there's something else that you mentioned earlier on in the show, and it's something that I feel is just as critical when considering and talking about a property broker, and that is talking to an accountant as part of that discussion. Is talking about having an accounting partner that when you're making that decisions, they can give you the guidance on the financials that sit behind around the properties, right? A broker is going to get to the bank and say he wants $500,000 to buy a house, he's got 5% deposit, and the bank's going to go yes or no. If he says yes, the accountant is then going to look at everything else that comes in from that costing of that house on the year. Your rates, your water, your property manager, and anything like that is underlining, and he's going to say how to best put that on a report so that at the end of the year you pay the taxes that you have to pay, but you also can put the most amount of money in your pocket if you need to. And it's that sort of relationship between a good property broker and an accountant that is beneficial to the journey of a property owner and definitely an investor.
Yeah, and you nailed it there. So we work with a bunch of, a young bunch of property hungry property specialists, property accountants there. They're not your average sort of bunch of accountants that are all sort of cooped up in a room with no windows and circulation. So not boring accountants. And the beautiful thing about it is that we can go and tap them on the shoulder and go, hey, look, we've got Joe Bloggs over here. They're really keen on buying this investment property. We've had a bit of an idea about structure and what their existing sort of circumstances are. We know what their goals are and the why, but can you come in here, come into this meeting and sort of give us a bit of an outline of how they can structure it to really get ahead and whether or not the numbers all make sense financially, and confirm whether or not it's a good option, or maybe they can look for something else. And yeah, that's all part of the property tax accounting team.
No, that's great. Thank you so much on that, Andrew. Before we end it off, to anyone that's listening at the moment that would love to reach out to you or has questions to you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we've got obviously a website there, propertytaxreturns.co.nz, and then I'm just under the mortgages side of things. Andrew at PTR Mortgages.co.nz, and you can give us a call on my cell phone's probably easier. We've got a landline, but hey, it's better to get me on my phone, 027 2240 159. And I'll pass on these details to you there, Lawrence.
That's awesome, Andrew. Thank you so much for the insights and the tips for people to think about. Like I said, is depending on where your path is along the property journey. We are in the beginning thinking about it. We are already on the ladder with one step or two steps or multiple steps. We need the guidance. We need to be told. Myself, as a multiple property owner, I thought I knew it all until I met Andrew. And like I said, the questions he asked told me straight away I didn't know much. I shifted, I altered, and in a far superior state than I was 6 months ago, and it hasn't cost me anything. I had to change nothing in the way my life is, but way better off because of how a property broker was able to assist me. They're out there, go out and reach them. But at the end of the day, if there's something, as I always say, that resonates with this episode, is something that you find is insightful to yourself or someone else, all I ask is you share it. You tell someone to come over and have a listen, because to them, it could make a difference to what they're trying to achieve. But as I always say, stay beautiful, stay strong. Until next time, see ya.